Welcome to Mornings with Ken Rosato. Today is Wednesday, April 15th, 2026, and we would love to take your calls. All you have to do is give us a call at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. To kick things off, meteorologist Mike Favetta with a forecast near you.
This weather is brought to you by Audio Nova, your hearing experts, serving all of New Jersey with 13 locations.
All right, Mike. So Mother Nature was letting us know that she is really summer-like with some storms that came through last night, a lot of rain.
Yes, a little
Uh,
bit of
but
rain.
uh, we're going to get a little more humid today than yesterday because yesterday was beautiful. It didn't
It was
feel the heat,
warm. Yeah, it's
but
true.
but the humidity was low.
It was low. Today we get a little bit more humidity and might be enough warmth to set some temperature records across New Jersey. We'll just have to see about that. Looking across the state, though, you see those showers that came through last night, moving through the overnight hours into this morning. A lot of the rains right now are off to our west, but we stay dry for most of the day today. You see right through this afternoon, a lovely southwesterly wind keeping us nice and clear. There could be some other showers and storms again tonight after about 7 or 8 o'clock. So these probably a little more potent because the front approaches New Jersey, so you can see them move on by, giving us a good chance of wet weather, and then right back to more sunshine tomorrow. Friday has another opportunity to see some showers and storms by the afternoon, and then by Saturday morning, we're back to the clear sky. So another taste of summer with this very warm weather moving on by. A map very similar to yesterday with that cool down out west, and we keep it rolling right through tomorrow with another round of warm weather again. Highs back in the 90s across New Jersey, all across the Northeast. So again, with these storms that are right now across the Midwest, they'll eventually arrive later on tonight. Take some time for them to cross the Northeast and give us another round of wet weather as we head into this evening. But plenty of sunshine today, plenty of warmth, warming us back up into the low 90s. In fact, we'll likely see some of those records fall, say across central New Jersey there, down by Trenton, and even over toward Newark, where the temperatures will be so warm even at the beaches. Usually we have some of those sea breezes that cool us down at the shore, Ken. Not the case today. It's going to be warm there even down the shore, which is very unusual for April.
Well, yeah, I just amazing. It really felt like we were 2.5 months ahead of where we are.
Yeah.
But you know me, I think you're probably similar. We'll take that. I'll take that over the snow any day. Mike, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. 60 degrees right now, northern New Jersey, 62 in Trenton. In California, it is 54 in Los Angeles and 55 degrees in San Diego. Checking traffic. We have a vehicle fire now on 287. This is northbound, south of exit 52, Route 23 in Montville. The right lane of 3 lanes in the right shoulder are closed. There is a crash on 295 northbound at exit 57, Route 130 in Bordentown Township. Ramp lane is closed. We have a disabled tractor trailer on the Goethals, and it is eastbound with the right lane and shoulder currently blocked. Over to 495, there was a crash eastbound from east of the Jersey Turnpike in North Bergen to Boulevard East in Weehawken. All lanes are open, but that's going to impact your commute into the Lincoln Tunnel, of course. At the area airports, at the area airports, we understand that the long-term parking lots are still at 95 to 100% capacity. So if you intend on getting to an airport and you don't have a ride and you're driving yourself, make sure that you have a reserved parking space, or else you're going to get there and not have a place to park your car and you miss your flight. Don't want to do that. Let's look at the Hudson River crossings. The Lincoln Tunnel again is a little slow because of the 495 issue that we just told you about. Route 139 already heavy into the Holland. That's going to cost you either way, Lincoln or Holland, 30 minutes. GWB upper and lower levels right now, 8095 approach very heavy, 80 I should say upper level on the right, lower level on the left, 35 to 40 minutes into Manhattan. To California, we go right now. We have a car fire that is reported, and this is in central LA at the 110 and Manchester Avenue off ramp. There's a collision now in Baldwin Park, and that's on the 10 at Barranca Street off ramp, and a collision on the 710 at 91, pardon me, in South LA. 4 minutes past the hour. Congressman Eric Swalwell resigned from Congress yesterday and is facing mounting criticism over a series of sexual misconduct allegations. But another decade old scandal over the California Democrats' ties to a suspected Chinese spy have also been revived amid reports the FBI is weighing whether to release those documents on the matter. The sexual misconduct claims, including from a former Swalwell staffer, have renewed scrutiny of the congressman's past ties to suspected Chinese operative Christine Fang, as critics demand the FBI release files related to Fang. I think they should also raise questions about mass media, because many in mainstream media knew everything about this since about 2019, but kept it quiet because it maybe didn't fit their narrative. Why would you not investigate that? Because I think if it happened to certain other people in politics, it would have been all over the front page. But it happened to Eric Swalwell, and he was a darling to members of the media on the West Coast until he wasn't. Swalwell has denied the new sexual misconduct allegations, calling them false. Before resigning from Congress, Swalwell suspended his gubernatorial campaign. He's also the subject of a criminal investigation by Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. We're talking about criminal accusations that members of the media absolutely ignored, and that's something that really needs to be addressed. Peace talks between the U.S. and Iran could restart as soon as tomorrow after President Trump imposed an American blockade on Iranian ports. A fragile truce between Tehran and Washington remains in place as leaders work to negotiate a wider deal. A senior U.S. official announced the U.S. and Iran have all the ingredients of a deal. Meanwhile, U.S. minesweepers have not found any mines in the water that Iran claims they planted. When Iran had claimed they were reopening the Strait of Hormuz, only 17 ships passed through the narrow strait, and they were all friendly to Iran. Basically, they were Chinese or Russian. Now that the U.S. has taken over the Strait of Hormuz, almost 50 ships have passed through. Nobody had to pay a toll. Everybody was safe. Remember, Iran was charging $2 million tolls to anyone who wasn't from China or Russia. Meanwhile, again, the U.S. in full control now of the Strait of Hormuz, and they have sent their minesweepers to make sure there are no mines there. A strong 5.7 magnitude earthquake struck near Silver Springs, Nevada, east of Carson City on Monday evening. The quake caused moderate damage, including broken glass and scattered goods in stores. People in the area say the shaking lasted a good minute. The quake started at about 3 miles deep, which is very shallow, so that made the shaking all the more obvious. Thankfully, nobody got seriously hurt. A grand jury has indicted a Florida doctor on a manslaughter charge for allegedly removing the wrong organ from his patient. You hear that? You know how, if you've ever gone for surgery, they say, "What are we having done today?" They always double check that before they knock you out. Apparently, this guy maybe didn't do that. Dr. Thomas Shaknovsky removed the patient's liver instead of the spleen. There is a difference. Even I know the two look different. This happened during a surgery in 2024. Prosecutors said during the surgery, which was scheduled to be a laparoscopic splenectomy, Shaknovsky removed the victim's liver, which resulted in, quote, catastrophic blood loss and the patient's death on the operating table. The patient was a 70-year-old man, Michael Scholes. From Muscle Shoals, Alabama. That's the man on the screen who died, unfortunately. Shaknovsky has a history of other alleged malpractice incidents, including surgeries involving wrong organs. So it's happened before. Why wasn't his license suspended previously? The state of Florida suspended Shaknovsky's medical license finally after the surgery, and then he voluntarily surrendered his Alabama medical license, so he can't perform surgery anywhere else. It was quite the scene in Midtown Phoenix Sunday when a small plane made an emergency landing on a local street after the engine failed right after takeoff. Thankfully, pilot Mike Tragars had over 40 years of experience at the controls. He was able to stay calm and safely put that plane down on an open road. Nobody in the air or on the ground got hurt. The plane stopped when it crashed into a water main. Again, nobody hurt, including passengers on board. The NTSB now looking into the cause of the engine failure. And don't be surprised if your local 7-Eleven goes away. The company plans on closing 645 North American stores in 2026. While opening 205 locations. So that's a net loss of about 440 stores. Some of those closures, I should say, are happening as part of a broader business shift. The company is converting a number of those stores into wholesale fuel locations, so you get gas at a discount like they do at Costco. Despite the closures, the brand still operates over 86,000 stores globally, including 13,000 in the U.S. and Canada, and they have tons of stores in Japan if you ever go there, including gourmet food in the 7-Elevens in Japan. It's amazing. Almost every state has a law in the books that makes it illegal to use AI or other means to non-consensually take somebody's likeness and put it on a nude body, implying that that person posed naked. Well, a man in Ohio found out the hard way that you can't do that. 37-year-old James Strahler from Columbus was convicted under a 2025 Take It Down Act after pleading guilty to the crime earlier this month. Women and girls make up about 90% of these sexual deepfake victims, many cases involving minors too, as both victims and perpetrators. So kids in school take pictures of friends and use AI to create naked bodies, but they too can be charged with sexual crimes. So just because you're a minor doesn't mean you can get away with it. The tax filing deadline is today. It is tax day, April 15th, but most taxpayers can request an extension till October 15th. Even if you file for an extension, though, and this always confused me, you must still pay your taxes. So here's my question. If you know how much your taxes are, why don't you just file the form? And if you could file the form, then you know how much your taxes are. But the point is, if you don't have your form ready, then how are you going to know what your taxes are? So I'm assuming you file approximate taxes, I'm guessing. Somebody who knows about taxes, tell me, because I never understood that. So, by the way, file ASAP today by midnight, because filing late is costly. The failure to file penalty is 5% per month. That's much higher than the 0.5% per month failure to pay penalty. Taxpayers who can't pay in full can set up a payment plan, but interest and fees would apply. New tax law changes under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act increased average refunds to about $3,500. That's quite an increase. Car loans may now be deductible, never was the case before, and seniors get an extra $6,000 deduction or $12,000 if you're an elderly couple, while higher SALT deduction caps benefit homeowners in states like New Jersey, New York, California, all states that have local and city income taxes. And there's a bill in the New York State Assembly you'll love if you're a pet owner. It proposes tax credits for expenses related to the well-being of our furry friends. The benefit would include expenses from the 2026 fiscal year, so next year you could file for this year. The proposal, this is if it passes, the proposal would allow dog and cat owners to claim credits for expenses incurred in 2026 for up to 2 animals. The way it works, an owner would receive credits of up to $150 per pet for everyday expenses like food and leashes, and up to $300 for medical or veterinary expenses. 13 minutes past the hour. When we return, meteorologist Mike Favetta will tell us more about the warm weather, including stickier weather today, and we'll take your calls at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. You're watching Mornings with Ken Rosato, now live on the East Coast and the West. Don't go away. Welcome back to Mornings with Ken Rosato for your Wednesday live in New Jersey and New York. And now we welcome Los Angeles and even Florida. We're beta testing our new channel in Florida for the entire state. It's 15 minutes past the hour. We'll take your calls at 888-658-0234. Warm and sticky in the Northeast. In fact, hotter than in Southern California. Meteorologist Mike Favetta has the forecast near you.
This weather is brought to you by Audio Nova, your hearing experts, serving all of New Jersey with 13 locations.
All right, Mike. So it was in the upper 80s yesterday, right? But
It
again,
was.
you said it was hot. I didn't feel that heat because it just didn't feel humid. But you're saying that's going to change today. We got that rain that came through last night.
Right, you have a little more humidity today. You really have to stand in the sun to feel that real excessive heat. In the shade, you're right, it felt kind of comfortable yesterday afternoon, and yet that is where the temperature is officially measured, in the shade. But in the sun today, oh, it's going to feel hot. You see a few clouds working in right now from the west. A lot of those dissipate, giving us some clear sky this afternoon, but big heat down across the southeast, even Florida, tapping in some of that unusual warmth. So temperatures today about 15 degrees above average, even into tomorrow. Another round of heat likely. Could break some temperature records today. Broke a record yesterday at Atlantic City Airport. Made it up to 86 degrees, or 88 degrees, broke the old record of 86. So with all of the clear sky around today, lots of warmth. I think by the next chance of a little bit of wet weather comes through later on this weekend, likely on Sunday. That's early in the morning, we get a quick hit of rain, and then by the afternoon it clears out. And then for Monday and Tuesday of next week, cooler weather, because that front that moves through provides a nice drying, cool effect that takes us into the afternoon. Some big, big storms out in the Midwest, some tornadoes you heard about if you're watching the national channels. Some of that severe weather move through there, and then another round of wet weather in the Pacific Northwest, but California staying nice and dry. We'll take a check of Southern California's weather coming up with your next weather update, Ken, in just a few minutes.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. It is 17 minutes past the hour right now. 61 degrees northern New Jersey. We have 63 in Trenton and 54 cool and comfy in Southern California right now in Los Angeles. We have problems reported now throughout the region on the approaches to the Hudson River. This is what's really bizarre. All three. So let's take a look at 495. This is going into the helix to the Lincoln Tunnel. Look at how jammed that is right now. And we understand there's a crash on 495 eastbound from east of the Turnpike in North Bergen Township, which is just behind this shot, actually. It's not even ahead to Boulevard East and Weehawken. All lanes are open, but look at this. Don't know why. I guess now they're just, once they pass that congestion point, I guess it's just the glare in their eyes because they're facing east. But that's going to cost you 40 minutes into Manhattan via the Lincoln. Now, let's go over to the approach of the Hudson, the Harlem. Did it again, Pam. I think Hudson, Harlem, New Haven line, which are the trains. This is the Holland Tunnel approach. I was a kid. I used to take the train every day to school, so that's still ingrained in my old brain. But this is Route 139 from the Jersey Turnpike, making your way into the Holland Tunnel, and you can see that's jamming too. It's going to be 35 to 40 minutes in there. And over at the GWB, not much better. 8095 approach, upper level on the right, lower on the left, and it's going to cost you 45 minutes in. It is just bumper to bumper and an absolute mess. By the way, we should let you know again, the area airports, I'm looking at all of them. All of them, they're long-term parking, 97 to 100% capacity, meaning if you are driving yourself to any of the big airports, Newark, LaGuardia, JFK especially, all their major all their terminal parking is 96% to 100% full. So make sure you make a parking reservation. Go online. If you can't park at the airport, go to one of the satellite parking lots and take a shuttle in. Much better than showing up and missing your flight because you can't park your car. Or just better yet, take a cab or have a friend drive you. Over to the West Coast we go. And let's see, we have a car fire. Central LA on the 110 at West Manchester Avenue off ramp. Collision at a report, Baldwin Park. That's on the 10 at Baranga Street off ramp. And on the 710 at 91, there's a crash in South LA. It is 19 minutes past the hour. A last minute deal prevented a major Los Angeles school strike, thankfully. An agreement was reached with 30,000 support staff, giving workers a 24% pay raise over 3 years, plus added protections. Now, look, I'm all for people getting paid. They're due. Everybody deserves it. But 24%, that's the taxpayers. And it just tells me the party in charge of California just These are the people in charge of your tax dollars. And they're just like, oh, 24% raise. I'd love to get a 24% raise. I'm sure you would too. That doesn't sound like really good negotiating there. Maybe you could have talked them down a little bit. 24% is unbelievable. Not only that, they got added protections and bennies on top of that. And by the way, some of the worst outcomes of students in schools in the whole country. Schools stayed open. That's the only good thing here. And that prevented disruption for nearly 400,000 students, one of the biggest school districts, if not the biggest, I think, in the United States. But come on, people, do a little better. Do a little better. Both sides here. Sit down and negotiate. Meanwhile, back in the East, Newark Mayor Ross Baraka renamed the football field at Nat Turner Park to Tahir Whitehead Sports Complex. Good man, Tahir Whitehead. The renaming ceremony was held this past Saturday, honors former NFL linebacker and Newark native Tahir Whitehead for his very big professional achievements and his ongoing commitment to the city's youth. He's extremely generous with his time and money. 21 minutes past, a stunning new study shows the warmer weather is getting more people, to walk and hike outdoors. Can you imagine? Nice weather makes people go out and walk. I want to be the guy paid to do that study. Folks in Newark average about 6,600 steps a day. That's pretty good. Near the 7,000 daily step benchmark set by JAMA Internal Medicine. Women, by the way, actually take fewer steps than guys. I would have thought it was the opposite. Women take 28% fewer steps than men on average. Older adults walk more than Gen Z, possibly due to less screen time. And maybe because the older adults have a little more time on their hands. Just saying. I'm getting there, so I can talk for myself. I mean, you walk in my neighborhood here. I'm in a townhouse development. Everybody who's like above the age of 60, and I'm getting there. I'm 58 and a half. Actually, I'll be 59 in a few weeks. But in the afternoon, it's all older couples, and it's beautiful to see and good for them. They all look like they're in great shape. Walking every day like that, every doctor will tell you, best thing you could do in terms of exercise. Keep moving. You stop moving, you're going to be in pain. It's 22 minutes past. MetLife Stadium has been temporarily renamed New York, New Jersey Stadium. See that? No nameplate on the front of the arena. It's for the FIFA World Cup. The change follows FIFA's clean stadium policy. None of their stadiums around the world can have a logo branding the stadium. So they remove corporate names and branding. The venue will host 8 matches, including the final, big, from June 13th to July 19th. We welcome you and love you, FIFA World Cup. Thank you for coming to Northern New Jersey. FIFA officials have ordered adjustments like installing natural grass for the field. And by the way, I read this at first and I'm like, why? They removed 1,740 seats from the stadium. And I kept saying, why would they do that? Why would you remove seats? It's because with the seats, you didn't have a regulation field. The field was set up for football. It wasn't set up for soccer. And for soccer, or as they call it, football, you need to have a wider stadium. You have to have a minimum size field. And we didn't meet it. So they had to remove 1,740 seats to widen the field to meet the FIFA standards, which they did. Now, don't worry about it, all you people who have like box seats and stuff. After the tournament, the stadium will return to its original name and seat setup. But for now, that's what they had to do to host FIFA. And if you plan on attending the FIFA World Cup and you plan on taking the train there, you really have no choice because there is no car parking or tailgating. The parking lot's going to be closed. You may want to consider this. NJ Transit is planning on charging over $100 round trip each day to New York, New Jersey Stadium during the World Cup. $100. The typical fare to MetLife Stadium is about $13. Sources say, well, we had to charge the price because it's to cover costs to avoid burdening taxpayers. You have to say it. Sorry, folks. Really? So you go from $12.90 to over $100? There's nothing in between. How about $50? How about $40? You charge people $100 who already, like Pam says, $99.99. You could be on the committee, Pam. People already like mortgaging their house to get these tickets. Does this make FIFA World Cup accessible to people who really can't afford it? Come on, $100. We were told the 1.2 million visitors for the matches would bring billions in spending to the region. So why must we offset costs? That doesn't make sense. It sounds like legalized price gouging, just me. And why? Because they can? NJ Transit says only World Cup ticket holders would be able to access these certain trains on game days. So I guess they feel it's an exclusive train, so they got to charge more. Oh, and they're not the only ones. Don't just blame NJ Transit, because Boston's Transit, MBTA, their commuter rail, is planning on charging $80 round trip for trains to see matches at Foxborough. The only way to stop this robbery, folks, contact your politicians and demand better. I'm sure, listen, Governor Sherrill has been very receptive to people. I guarantee you start telling her, we're not going to tolerate this, Governor. We didn't elect you and all the other members of the Assembly and Senate to rob us blind with NJ Transit, and they do have oversight over NJ Transit. Remind them you will remember at election time. Speaking of money, a new poll shows 61% of New Jersey voters support having a casino at the Meadowlands, right by the stadium. 54% also support a casino at Monmouth Park in the middle of the state. And support is bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats both, majority of both. Folks believe casinos would bring economic benefits and tax revenues. Well, sounds like a good plan, right? But talk to the folks in Atlantic City about that. Atlantic City, except for a couple of buildings right at the water, is in bad shape. Most would call the casinos there a failure in terms of long-term urban revitalization. In other words, didn't work. The money didn't go to do what it was supposed to do. Despite those popular numbers, the lawmakers remain mixed. Back in 2016, they defeated a similar proposal, 77 to 23%. And some famous sons of New Jersey will hold a two-night concert to celebrate America's 250th. Bruce Springsteen and John Bon Jovi will headline a June 4th and 5th concert along with other famous performers. The performance with the opening of the Bruce Springsteen Center's new home. It's a $50 million, 30,000 square foot facility on the campus of Monmouth University in West Long Branch. Tickets, by the way, go on sale April 21st. And we find a lot of things in sewers, wastewater, alligators. How about great singers? Kyle Kilroy calls himself the sewer singer on TikTok. He has garnered quite the number of followers, 29,000 so far to be exact. The waste management worker makes his way through Boston's sewer system each day, one song at a time. Check this out.
Sing once again with me a strange duet. My power over you grows stronger yet.
He has a very, if you've ever heard of the Irish tenors, that's the very Irish tenor sound. I think he is maybe Irish. His name is Kilroy. Beautiful voice. What a talent. He's embarrassed. He's embarrassed to sing in front of people, which is why he sings in the sewers where he works. There are a bunch of TikTok videos out there, by the way. Several of them show him now breaking out in front of people, but good for him. That is the sewer singer. You could go on social media and check him out. 28 minutes past the hour. When we come back, New Jersey has made major strides in improving maternal and infant health. We're going to talk about that. Phone lines open, 888-658-0234. You're watching Mornings. We're back in 2 minutes. Welcome back. 30 minutes past the hour. Tax day, April 15th. Meteorologist Mike Favetta has the forecast near you.
This weather is brought to you by Audio Nova, your hearing experts, serving all of New Jersey with 13 locations.
So let me get this straight, Mike. If you want heat, you go to Jersey. And if you want cool comfort, you go to Southern California. I got it. All right.
That's
This all makes
exactly
perfectly
right.
good
That's
sense
exactly
to me.
right. Yeah. A little bit of a flip side, starting off our week, the rest of it at least, very, very warm. But next week at this time, coincidentally, we'll be in the 40s and 50s. So don't put away the winter stuff just yet because it does get chilly in about a week's time. Had a little bit of rain come through New Jersey last night. That has since cleared out. A beautiful start to the day. Nice and sunny right now. Also, a big start to the allergy season with tree pollen remaining very high. Weeds, grasses, and molds a little bit lower, although those will probably peak a little bit sooner thanks to all of this warm weather. The front that provides our showers and storms later on tonight is just off to our north, but as it moves closer, gives us a good chance of rain later on this evening. And then you see these severe storms in the Midwest. They really diminish by the time they reach us this Sunday, but it looks like that Sunday is going to be a little bit wetter, especially earlier on in the day than initially advertised. So plan on a wet finish to the weekend as we wrap up this weekend. With all of that warmth centered over the Gulf and Florida, look at this warm wind that keeps on flowing in throughout the next several days. Doesn't really cool down until we get to Friday. That's when some slightly cooler weather moves on by. But overall, the rain keeps going by to our north until tonight. And then all of that wet weather in the Midwest drifts eastward as the Pacific Northwest stays a little wet. And then overall, I think we'll look pretty warm going into this weekend. Southern California, Ken, like you had mentioned, a little bit of cool weather coming on in for the rest of the day today, with those clouds taking over in LA and down towards San Diego. But once that clears out by Friday, most of California is back to the sunny, dry weather with that pleasant feeling right through the start of the weekend. So pretty weather ahead after about a day of clouds, and then we look nice and dry going into the next few days. But we're clear right now, and we should stay that way at least through the rest of this morning, Ken.
All right, Mike. Thank you, sir. 63 degrees northern New Jersey and in Trenton. It is 54 degrees, 9 degrees cooler in Southern California, in Los Angeles, and in San Diego. Both cities have the same temperature right now. In terms of traffic, we have a lot of it. Let's go to the Garden State Parkway right now. This is just south of Bloomfield, exit 147. I'm sorry, mile marker 147, exit 145, exiting the Parkway. Take a look at that. Just bumper to bumper traffic. And this is all volume. There's no accident or anything. So just be aware of that. Again, that's by exit 145 on the Parkway. It didn't specify what direction we're heading in, but it looks like east is to the left. So therefore, they're heading south, if that is the case, right? If east is to the left, if I do my directions correctly. Let's take a look if we can. I should mention the area airports. Again, they're major long-term parking facilities at Newark, LaGuardia, JFK, especially JFK. They're all at 96 to 100% capacity. If you are headed to one of the three major airports to head out of town, because you still have a lot of people on spring break, it's staggered in the Northeast. So some people had spring break 2 weeks ago, last week, this week. The airport parking lots are at 96 to 100% capacity. So book a space in advance. You're going to get there and not be able to park and miss your flight. Very important. Get a satellite parking reservation online if you can. Let's go over to 495, the approach to the Lincoln Tunnel by the Helix. It is jamming, and that's going to cost you 40 minutes into Manhattan. There are also delays on 295 staggered throughout, and we'll let Pam get set up on the 139 shot. This is the 139, which takes you in from the Holland Tunnel, or to the Holland Tunnel, I should say, off the Turnpike. Look at that, absolutely stopped. And that's also 40 minutes into Manhattan. But it's still better than the GWB upper and lower levels, 8095 approach, 45 minutes jamming, upper level on the right side, lower level on the left. Ugh, am I glad I don't have that commute into Manhattan these days after 25 years of doing it at Channel 7 and Channel 5 every single morning. That's what I used to face. So it's nice to be, my commute is now walking down a flight of steps to the basement. Sorry to rub it in. To the West Coast we go. We have a car fire now reported central LA at the 110 and Manchester Avenue off-ramp, a traffic collision in Baldwin Park, and that is at the 10 and Barranca Street off-ramp. And we have another crash, central LA at the 10 and Santa Fe Avenue. Boy, the 10 is famous for crashes, isn't it? 735 East Coast, 435 West, and New Jersey has made major strides in improving maternal and infant health. Programs like Nurture New Jersey have focused on support for families all across the state. But a recent study from Rutgers School of Public Health took a closer look at the experiences of Black and Latino women specifically, highlighting improvements and challenges that may need to be happening there. Dr. Leslie M. Cantor is a professor and department chair at Rutgers School of Public Health. We say good morning and welcome, Dr. Cantor.
Good morning. Glad to be with you this morning.
So nice to have you on. Doctor, what are the policies that New Jersey's implemented to try to improve maternal health?
So, since 2018, New Jersey has put in place more than 75 policies. So, I know that your folks do not want me to go through all of them. Many of the key policies are related to healthcare, and some of the things that people might be most interested in are things like doula care, which is having a trained birth
Mhm.
assistant, is now covered by Medicaid. Early elective deliveries are no longer covered because of a lot of science that shows that those actually put women at risk. So many policies put in place that have made real and meaningful progress for women and infants.
Doctor, let me ask you about that. The early, so by early, you mean like inducing or C-sections, or to talk a little bit more for
Exactly.
a person who doesn't have babies in their lives like me.
Yes, happy to do that. So, of course, if a cesarean or an early delivery is medically necessary, then whether you're on Medicaid, private insurance, even if you don't have insurance, that procedure would be done. But there were people, whether because of the physicians or people's preference, who wanted that early cesarean in order to schedule. And I think for a long time, it wasn't so clear, but actually, anytime that you have surgery, you're going to introduce risks. So the good news is now that this policy is in place that Medicaid won't cover those, we actually have turned the dial and there are 10% fewer of those unnecessary procedures now in New Jersey.
Interesting. And by the way, I'm so glad we're talking about doulas because I know that the rest of the world used to have a higher infant mortality than us. And then it kind of was going that way because they started having doulas and we weren't. Because I don't know if it was the influence from the medical industry or not, where you have to be a full-fledged surgeon to have a oh, doulas. This is all they do. They are the coaches, they're the emotional support. They know how to deliver babies, and they're there for months and months helping women out, right? So I've several
That's
friends who've used doulas, and the babies are great, and it just gives the mother so much confidence, right, going into the delivery.
Yeah, doula care is extremely helpful. And you make a really interesting point, which is the United States has all kinds of medical technology. But the way we think about it in maternal health is that, in a way, our system is upside down. We have
Mm.
lots of OBGYNs who can do surgeries. What we are really missing is midwives who can do, those are medical people who do a holistic approach to birth. And when you over medicalize, as we were just talking about, and you're doing too many unnecessary surgeries, that's when you can put people at risk. So we really need to be
Mhm.
also training more midwives. And I'm pleased that as part of Nurture New Jersey, there has been an investment in developing a training program, which we actually have at Rutgers at the School of Nursing.
Well, doctor, we all know that 3,000 years ago, they had triple board certified surgeons delivering babies. We all know that, right? I mean, this is humans did this for thousands of years, and I think we just think too much of ourselves, and we decided to change it all one way. But I have so many friends, as I mentioned, I don't mean to sound Pollyannish here, but they had the doula experience, and it was mind blowing. It was just a whole different experience. Now, your study included, or the study, I should say, with Nurture New Jersey, it included conversations with Black and Latino women across the state.
Yeah.
What did they share about their experiences during pregnancy and childbirth?
So the study that I had the opportunity to facilitate was really done by a core group of 8 Black and Latina moms who trained with me to be community researchers. And that is spectacular because they are the ones who developed the guide and did interviews with 180 additional Black and Latina women. So what did we find out? We did a set of data collection in 2024 and then in 2025. And we could already see that many of the policies that we were just talking about, such as access to doulas, women were more aware of those. They were more likely to be utilizing those. But there are some important barriers. One thing we forget about is that even when you're insured, there are a lot of other costs, co-pays, transportation, parking. More and more prenatal care in this state is being done at hospital and hospital facilities. And guess what? The parking is
Mm.
very expensive. So we were hearing from people that they were skipping appointments. Another important thing is that the geography of New Jersey is varied. And in the southern part of the state, there is a lot less public transportation access. So again, Nurture New Jersey is trying to do more programs with New Jersey Transit. There are often Uber rides and other kinds of supports, but women don't always know about those. So we need to make sure that our healthcare providers are lifting up those programs. And if I could make a pitch that we get rid of some of those parking fees at healthcare facilities, that would be good for a lot of people.
Why not have a section here, just a suggestion, section of the parking lots just for, expectant moms, and they get a special pass over
Sure.
maybe the 3-month period and maybe half price. How about that? Crazy thought, right? Why must we be making a profit on the parking when they need to come for something essential like taking care of the baby? They're not coming to just visit great grandma for a minute. They're coming because they have to. It just, I don't know. Maybe we're just too logical, doctor. So now this is, I think people forget, they lose track of the fact that healthy mom, healthy baby. And I'm just curious, how does nutrition of the moms and their education, we only have about a minute left here, but the nutrition of the moms, how does that play into their months of pregnancy?
Good question. A woman's health status going into pregnancy is really critical, whether it's exercise, nutrition. A way my colleagues talk about it is that pregnancy pressure tests the body. It's actually quite tough on the body. So before people get pregnant, ideally they are in as optimal health as they can be. And we need the whole system around us of healthcare, of availability to healthy food to support that.
Amen to that. Well, thank goodness for people like you, Dr. Leslie M. Cantor, professor and department chair at Rutgers School of Public Health, keeping moms healthy and those babies then come out good and healthy, because this is essential that we address this, especially the disparity that right now that we're having with Black and Latina moms. We want everybody healthy for our future and our society. Dr. Cantor, great having you on. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
You bet. 43 minutes past the hour. When we come back, Coachella has kicked off this year's festival season. I had tickets, but I was having my nails done. And with it, some fashion trends with the warm weather. On New Jersey's fashion expert, fashionista Don Del Russo will join us. We're back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to mornings, 46 minutes past the hour. Meteorologist Mike Favetta has the forecast near you.
This weather is brought to you by Audio Nova, your hearing experts, serving all of New Jersey with 13 locations.
All right, Mike. So I am officially starting this. Is that a bad thing?
Hmm.
Is it too early?
No, no, it's not too early. Stepped outside and it felt humid, felt muggy, felt like a June or July morning. Very unusual for April, but it's weather that it's kind of enjoyable if you like the summer sun because we get that taste of summer this week and then next week it's right back to chilly spring with 40s and 50s on the board. We'll show you that with the 7-day coming up in just a bit. As far as the storms out in the Midwest, some severe weather happening there. This is tornado season, right down through Oklahoma into Texas. Some of those storms producing some twisters yesterday and the day before. But now into the weekend, our weather turns warm, slightly cooler as we head into Friday and Saturday. But this next line of storms that's along a front that arrives across New Jersey by Sunday gives us some wet weather toward the end of the weekend. Then as we head into Monday and Tuesday of next week, that cooler weather takes over and stays, well, a little chilly going into Monday and Tuesday, and especially by Wednesday. So enjoy that warmth while it lasts because we get another dose of it tomorrow with highs in the upper 80s and low 90s. Then that front comes through early Friday morning, likely giving us some showers and scattered storms most of the day. And then Saturday dries out again, but Sunday has our next opportunity for some wet weather. Through the end of the month, actually, all of the heat kind of concentrates down to the south, whereas here in New Jersey, we just have equal chances of seeing warmer than average weather. And it stays dry. A lot of the moisture heads through the Midwest, where most of that rain is needed. We're technically out of a drought here in New Jersey, but as we head into the next few weeks, I think we'll see some slightly drier weather, maybe a moderate drought expand through northern New Jersey, severe drought down south in Florida, and some of that abnormally dry conditions are starting to work their way back through California. So overall, looking good for New Jersey, but very dry there in Florida with that extreme to exceptional drought happening down toward the Panhandle again.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't think of Florida. They don't, when they think of Florida, they don't think of drought, but the
Yep.
Panhandle gets it, and in the Pine Barrens area, inland, it's like we have the Pine Barrens in New Jersey.
Hmm.
Usually it's in January, February, but I know they had an exceptionally dry January, February. And
Right.
Florida's wetlands, you don't get rain for a few weeks, like a week or two. A week or two can really impact the ecosystem there. And you
Yeah.
smell when there are wildfires and whatnot. You could
Oh,
smell it
this is
throughout the state because
wildfire
it's
season. I'm
hot.
glad you brought that up because, yeah, March in through May is their wildfire season down in Florida.
100%. So definitely, a lot of people they go out on the airboats and then they smoke and they dump it, or
Mm,
more often than not, it's not that. A lot of times it's just lightning that starts it. But
yeah,
just beware
sure.
of that. If you let's say a little prayer for Florida getting rain. I know that sounds silly because you think Florida gets tons of rain. No, not this time of year. It doesn't. So, all right, Mike, thanks for pointing it out. Appreciate it.
Yep.
That's our Florida channel we have now on FLA. So we hope that people heed that and listen to what Mike is talking about there. In terms of temperatures, it is 60 degrees northern New Jersey, 63 in Trenton, California now 54 in Los Angeles and 56 in San Diego. In terms of traffic, we have issues now on. Let's go to the Garden State Parkway at exit 145. That's the is this no, this is one yeah, 160. I'm sorry, Pam. Thank you. This is at 160.7. So this is north of the Bergen Toll Plaza, and they're headed northbound right now. And you can see what bumper to bumper mess this is. And this is purely caused by volume. And I'm guessing the easterly sun that's to the right there. That's causing a little bit of a glare, and that causes people to hit their brakes. They're also merging there, but nonetheless, a lot of volume causing a little bit of a slowdown. Again, around exit 160 north of the Bergen Toll Plaza, Garden State Parkway. Pam will set up the next one at exit 145 in a second, but I just want to tell everybody about what's going on at the area airports. Every one of our area airports, the airport parking lots, the long-term parking are all at capacity. So if you drive yourself to an area airport, still spring break season, it goes on for a whole month. Make sure you have a reserved parking space or have somebody drive you or take a cab, or else you're going to miss your flight trying to find a parking space. Look at the other Garden State Parkway issue now. This is in the vicinity of Bloomfield. This is exit. Oh, Okay, I thought we were getting the other shot. It's all right. So we're not. Let's just say that in the area of Bloomfield, they do have more traffic. This is 495, and this is the approach to the Helix Lincoln Tunnel. It's going to cost you 45 minutes solid getting in. That is stopped. What a mess. Bus lane's looking good, but it's all volume and eastbound, sun glare, etc. You could see the to the straight ahead and slightly to the left, that easterly sun coming right into people's faces, causing a lot of folks to slow down. Not much better if you make your way over to the 139, which takes you from the turnpike into the Holland Tunnel. And you can see that's bumper to bumper as well. Stopped. Look at the cars on the left there. Absolutely stopped, making their way into the north tube of the tunnel, just jamming. And then the GWB has been 45 minutes all morning long, 80-95 approach, upper and lower levels, both just crawling, making your way in. 80-95 upper level on the right, lower level is on the left. Over to Los Angeles, just a few issues to tell you about. And this is a car fire first, and this is in central LA on the 110 at Manchester Avenue off-ramp. We have a traffic collision, Baldwin Park at the 10 and Barranca Street off-ramp. And then we have another collision, no injuries reported though, South LA at East 92nd and Juniper. It is 52 minutes past the hour. Coachella, considered the unofficial kickoff to festival season. Festival. And with it comes a wave of fashion trends. This year, we're seeing a mix of bold, creative, and slightly unexpected trends, from futuristic boho looks to modern takes on Western wear. To help break it all down, we're joined, as we are every week at this time, by fashion expert Dawn Del Russo of livethefashion.com. Love that. Oh, no, I'm sorry. What is it? The Glamour. Is it? Tell everybody your website. I'm mixing it up.
Live the glamour.
The
Yep,
Glamour.
live the glamour.
Well, I'm going to buy you Live the Fashion too. You'll have two, but it's Live the Glamour, glamour with a U. Livetheglamour.com.
Yes.
Good morning, Dawn. Good to have you on as
Good morning,
always.
Ken.
I
Good
don't
to
know.
see you.
Need my fifth cup of coffee, I
It
guess.
sounded good. I like it.
So Dawn, why does Coachella matter so much when it comes to fashion trends, even for people who don't go to festivals?
Yeah, it's funny. It's an unofficial kickoff, and it really does lead into like what's everybody going to be wearing in the summertime. All of these, people are out and about, and they're putting together some pretty wild outfits. I would definitely not recommend taking the whole thing and wearing it in regular life, but we're seeing the trends, and then from that we're pulling them out, like the sheer and laces. We talked a little bit actually maybe like a month ago about sheer, and that's why you see trends come over, because that was something popping up. It was on the runways. Now people take it to festivals like Coachella or Stagecoach, and we're seeing it live, like street style, if you want to call it that. And the sheer and lace, tons of layers, a lot of that. So I think going into summer, it'll be a good choice to wear over a swimsuit. You can do it if you want to try to do the look, but don't want to wear it out in public. I think beach or swim is a great place to do it. Futuristic boho. This is an interesting one because over the years, Coachella has definitely changed. It was more Western of a vibe for a very long time. I think we still see some of that, but now we're seeing this futuristic look where lots of crystals and shimmery fabrics, metallics, a lot of holographic kind of looks too, which I found interesting. I actually saw a pair of jeans that had this like whole holographic metal going down them, and I thought that was a very interesting choice for Coachella, being that it's so much more Western and out in the West Coast, but yet we're seeing this like very high future look to the clothing.
So by boho, we mean like bohemian look, sort of hippie-ish,
Yes.
kind of, live in the village. Yo, dude, I haven't taken a shower in 6 months, but I don't care because I'm the only one who smells myself. That's sort of what we're talking about. But that just harkening back to my youth at NYU about 100 years ago. So the question is, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it designers who come up with this stuff and then people wear it to Coachella, or are people just taking what's left at the bottom of their closet or what they find at a vintage shop and wearing it, and then designers go, I like that?
Yeah, I think it's a mix. Honestly, a lot of vintage is seen here. So it's being that you said that, it's so true. The vintage really comes to play. And you have to always take it back to the fact that somewhere down the line, designers were creating things and it ended up, 20 years as vintage pieces that now people are resurrecting. They're bringing it back and they're wearing it to events like this. I do think it's a mix, but I feel like someone always started it. Designers tend to be the ones that did that, whether it was more recent runways or something we saw 20 or 30 years ago. creativity is very big for things like this. So we're not seeing just your typical outfit. Someone's not taking something off of a rack and wearing it. They're taking a flowy skirt and they're pairing it with this crystal top. They're taking bikini tops and they're wearing it with the micro shorts. Micro shorts are really big, hard thing to wear. Micro shorts and micro skirts, mini skirts, a lot of denim. But if you're going to do that, I suggest wearing them with maybe something flowy and long on top of it. So it's kind of a subtle hint to it underneath, or wear it as a more swimwear style piece. Crochet is really, really big at places like this. And that's something that's more vintage, something that we saw from the 60s and the 70s, and they're bringing that back. So I feel like it's a big mix of designers and then that vintage style. Everyone is trying to find their unique personal look here. They're trying to do something that you're not going to see anyone else wearing, which when sometimes people do that, it ends up looking like everyone's doing that and it does look the same. So it's a little funny when you start to get into it. But if you really want to think about trends for the summer, think modern, think metallics mixed with your loose flowy skirts and sheer tops. Things like that I think are going to move us in summer months, that you can wear and look like you're part of the in crowd.
Interesting. And by the way, I left my micro shorts upstairs, or else I would have worn them for you. But I think I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. I'm sorry. We should mention that accessories, and we get down to 30 seconds, but we got to get this in. Accessories like chunky jewelry and big belts too seem important. So I'm sure we'll see more of that. But I want you to talk more about that next week because we're down to 30 seconds. That, and you're right about the Western wear. I'm seeing Western wear men with cowboy hats in this area, and they're like $2,000. They're not cheap. But seriously, it looks, I never thought you could rock cowboy wear like that and make it look so sharp. But it is sharp looking stuff. I'm dead serious. I love it. And cowboy boots and all that stuff is beautiful. So anyway, we'll do a whole segment on Western wear. I guess we could. Dawn, it is always a pleasure and an honor. And now that I've granted you a whole new website, it's kind of interesting. But the website that she has is livetheglamour.com, livetheglamour, GLAMOUR.com. New Jersey's fashion guru, Dawn Del Russo. Always, always love having you on. Have a great day, and thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Ken. You too.
You bet. 58 minutes past the hour. For those of you watching on LACA on the West Coast, stay tuned for your local news. If you're watching on New Jersey, we're back live with New Jersey news, traffic, opinion, and weather. Back in 2. 8 a.m. Wednesday, April 15th, tax day. Good morning, Ken Rosato. Welcome to On New Jersey Mornings. 888-658-0234 is our number to call. Meteorologist Mike Favetta has the forecast near you.
This weather is brought to you by Audio Nova, your hearing experts, serving all of New Jersey with 13 locations.
So, Mike, in honor of all the warm weather, I dyed my hair. I think I missed a few patches. You see, yesterday I was like 90% gray, and my mother said, I noticed this morning you're getting a little gray. That hit me. That was like a knife to the heart when my mother says
Oh
that, because my
boy.
she's going to be 89. The woman still has like natural hair color. She doesn't dye it,
Mm.
and it's like she has her color. It's not gray. And I'm like, okay, Ma, thanks a lot. So I hope I did. This is just for men right there. So
Well, you got to
I
stay
think
in
I
the
missed
sun.
it.
It'll
Look,
bleach it.
within a day it does, especially in Florida.
Yeah,
I think
huh?
right here I missed a patch. I'll have to touch
Oh
that up
boy.
later. Anyway,
You got the little
just saying.
poly
See,
walnut stripe going up the side. So
that's
yeah.
it. You got it right here. Two streaks of Pauly walnuts. So we had some warm weather yesterday, Mike, and we're going to get a little stickier today, right? Before it gets cool nicely.
87 was the high yesterday at Newark Airport. So 87 degrees, didn't reach 90, so we won't have our heat wave of 3 days of 90 degrees in a row. But to think in the middle of April having a heat wave, first time in 24 years, would have been the case. But we're already at 70 in Newark and warming up quickly down the shore with those warm winds blowing in from the south and west, keeping any sea breeze far away from New Jersey. So yeah, it'll actually be a decent day to head down toward the sand today before that sea breeze kicks back in along the coastline. Plenty of hot weather ahead. Temperatures right now responding to the sunshine, clear sky around, and even across the Audio Nova locations here in New Jersey. 89 in Freehold, 89 in Holmdel. A couple of thunderstorms by tonight up in Montvale and Ramsey. Bergen County could see a best chance for some rain after the evening rush this evening. You see it with the Futurecast. A lot of those showers and storms popping up after we get to that 90-degree mark, likely setting records today across many weather stations here in New Jersey. And then by tonight, you see 11 o'clock, a couple of those storms slide on through. Another day tomorrow in the 90s, a little bit cooler with the wind shift. Look at the difference here between LBI and inland of Toms River. 91 degrees there at the end of Toms River, all the way down along the Parkway. But you head out toward Ship Bottom there. Take a, what is that? Exit 69 or 68, 63, all the way down across to LBI and Ship Bottom, and you get to 56 degrees on the water. So a big difference, letting you know that that ocean air is still very chilly. Then we get into Friday. Some scattered storms are around. It's kind of a hit or miss shower. Saturday starts dry, but Sunday might have another round of late morning rain. Until we get to the weekend, it's hot and sticky. Temperatures in the 90s today, 90s tomorrow, cooler in the 80s by Friday, but we're back into the 60s, Ken, on Saturday with a drier feel. We'll tell you more about that and the rest of the weekend forecast coming up.
All right, Mike, we'll be looking forward to that, sir. Already 60 degrees northern New Jersey, 63 now in Trenton. It is 60 degrees in Cape May and 61 in Vineland. 8:04 is our time. And in terms of traffic, we have, again, issues let's talk about the Garden State Parkway first, if we can. Pam, do you have the 160.7? This is north of the Bergen Toll Plaza. All volume and a little bit of glare in the face, and this is causing a little bit of a slowdown as you make your way up the Parkway. Northbound traffic, that is, and that's in Bergen County, and that's where that is located, purely from volume. Other issues a little bit further south by Bloomfield, southern direction. The Garden State Parkway also just volume delays. Thankfully, no crashes to report. And making your way across the Hudson River, all three crossings are heavy this morning. We have delays now on the 495 making your way into the Lincoln Tunnel. This goes right into the Helix, and that's going to cost you about 35 minutes. It's actually slightly better than it was half an hour ago. Over to the 139, which takes you from the New Jersey Turnpike into the Holland Tunnel, and that is jamming. Also slightly better than it was. It's moving a little more than it was about half an hour ago. That's good news. And finally, the GWB approach, 8095, upper level on the right, lower level on the left. And we are looking at some heavy traffic, but slight motion. So we're still talking 45 minutes in, though, via the GWB. Remember, all of the area airports, their long-term parking facilities are at capacity, so make sure you reserve a parking space if you're driving to the airports. Mass transit is on or close to schedule. It is 5 minutes past 8 o'clock, and March was Women's History Month. But even though it is now April, the impact of trailblazing women continues to be felt, especially here in New Jersey. One of those incredible women is Wilda Diaz, who made history as the first and to date the only Latina mayor of Perth Amboy. During her time in office, she focused on community development, economic revitalization, and expanding opportunities for working families while also paving the way for greater Latino representation in public leadership. We welcome her now. Good morning, Mayor Wilda Diaz. I still call you Mayor. You get that title for life, right? So we respectfully call you Mayor Diaz. Good to have you on.
Oh, thank you for having me. I think
You
this
bet.
is such an opportunity, right? As we celebrate women and all the hard work that we do every day, right? And how we make our
Absolutely.
contribution for the betterment of our communities.
And 25, 30 years ago, to hear of a woman mayor was almost unheard of. It just wasn't a common thing in American cities. Thankfully, because of people like you, it's becoming more and more common. In fact, I'm seeing more women in politics than men in many cases. And that's a great thing because you need the different mindsets. And there are different mindsets. I firmly believe that between women and men. And I think women offer a practical and intelligent way of looking at things that many times men just simply don't offer. Thankfully, for people like you for paving the way, and we appreciate it. And I know you had a lot on your plate when you took over Perth Amboy, and you're still there, right? You're still very much a community activist. Talk about that.
I was honored to be the mayor of the city of Perth Amboy. I was mayor for 12 years. And
Mhm.
during that time, I had the opportunity to make contributions in the area of development, and helping our communities grow the economy of our city. And that's one thing that sometimes they discount women, right? We come with many talents, many skill sets, which really helps be able to in the areas of government. Still today, I was always active in the community. I helped many organizations, and that's how I was known. I was known by just being a community activist, and getting my name known within the community, right? People, when they saw me, they say they didn't see a politician. They saw someone that was always working within the community, working with many families. And still today, that's exactly what I'm still doing. And,
Mhm.
and at the end of the day, it's about what we can give back, right? It's just helping so many families that each and every day just need a helping hand. And I think that's where we make a difference as women.
And well, I'm sure when you came into the city of Perth Amboy, when you first became mayor, there were a lot of challenges in the city. I remember I had friends who lived in Tottenville, Staten Island, and they used to talk. This is going back 40 years. I won't share my age. I'm almost 60,
Okay.
but I remember that they used to talk about Perth Amboy in a very derogatory way. Stuff, garbage, and they used to say body parts. They were kidding, but they would say that garbage would wash ashore and it would be coming from Perth Amboy and stuff. And meanwhile, I think it was the other way around, but that's another story because I'm a New Jersey guy. Um, but that's not the
Well,
case today. And a lot of it was your efforts. You really helped clean up the city. What were the top priorities that you had in the community when you first came in?
Well, definitely we had challenges with the budget, right, and financial woes that we had inherited. So my first goal was to address and ensure that we had a budget and also be able to provide programs for our community. And then, years later, we got hit with Superstorm Sandy. That was a challenge
Mhm.
because the entire waterfront was devastated. We also had the marina. It was an entire reconstruction, new projects for the entire waterfront. And now when people come to Perth Amboy, they see this beautiful waterfront where they can enjoy it with their families. And also, I had many roles as a mayor. I also sat on the redevelopment agency, and that was really important because we looked at areas that were blighted for many years. And we were able to transform those areas by creating new jobs and bringing in new companies so that
Mhm.
it created an economy impact where it also helped many of our residents also be able to work there. And when people work in your communities, they also support the small businesses within the community. And
Absolutely. And I'm sorry to step on you, Mayor. I was going to say this approach to economic development really created opportunities for working families, right?
Yes, I mean, when I first became mayor, I remember having to travel out of Perth Amboy to see a warehouse where many of the residents of Perth Amboy were working there, and I'm like, why are they? It takes a lot of time for them to get to that site, and I wanted to create a place where people could again live here in Perth Amboy and work here in Perth Amboy, and be able to support their families, and at the same time be able to make contributions to the economy of our city.
It's a big deal too, and just I'm sure so many women, especially Latinas. And by the way, I'm soy medio argentino, so I speak hablo español también.
Okay.
And so there you go. So just so the world knows where I'm coming from. But the fastest or the largest segment, I believe the statistic is fastest growing and largest number of business owners, private business owners in America are Latinas, are specifically Latin women are the blossoming as business owners in America. But that wouldn't have happened if they didn't know that there was an opening for them, and it was people like you who helped do that. Do you feel sort of the weight and the pressure on your shoulders of having done that, helping break through for so many Latinas in America?
Well, we come with a dream, our families, right, to be able to create a better living for ourselves, right? But women, especially Latinas, are entrepreneurs. They have that fighting spirit. They want to be able to leave a mark and also be self-sufficient and also help others, right? Latinas, for the most part, also helps a lot of their families, and they hire within, right, their own families, and they continue to create a place for the economy and for themselves. And Latinas women, I could say my family's from Puerto Rico, right? So, and
Nice.
I remember being in the kitchen and hearing all my aunts and a very loud Puerto Rican family. But I remember, they themselves, they created a pasteles. I don't know if you know what that is, right?
Yes,
Latinos
I
would
know.
know. And they had that entrepreneur. They would be the ones out there selling. So I learned from from an early age, that women, when we put our minds to it, we can do whatever. We are with all the challenges that we can have, we still we go out and we continue to fight and we continue to overcome.
Amen to that. Listen, I'm married to a man, but my husband's family is half Puerto Rican. So I just roasted a
Okay.
pernil last night. So I know pasteles. De veras. Podemos cocinar pasteles juntos if you'd like, whenever you'd like. The former mayor of Perth Amboy, the trailblazing Latina leader in New Jersey, Wilda Diaz. Please promise you'll come back on. I love having you on. Well, we got to have you back. Okay, please.
Oh, I definitely. Thank you so much. This is a great opportunity. It's a blessing, and thank you so much.
Well, you're a blessing to the state and to all the people here. We thank you so much for coming on as well. Have a wonderful day, man.
Thank you for having me. You too.
Thank you. And when we come back, we're going to speak with folks from Rider University about how students there get the opportunity to apply what they learn in real world settings. We're back in 2. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato at 8:16, taking calls at 888-658-0234. Meteorologist Mike Favetta has a summer-like forecast near you.
This weather is brought to you by Audio Nova, your hearing experts, serving all of New Jersey with 13 locations.
All right, Mike. So we went from, oh my God, it's so cold, to, ugh, it's schwitzy. I can't take the heat. There's
It's
nothing in between.
true. Standing in the sun yesterday felt really warm, especially if you weren't prepared for it. Well, we get an even hotter day today, breaking records across New Jersey, especially up at Newark Airport, breaking the old record from 1960. As the clouds work their way across northern New Jersey, they clear out by this afternoon. Notice a little bit of a cooler breeze along the southeastern facing shore, south of Atlantic City, Egg Harbor, Hamilton. You still warm, well into the 80s, likely touching 90 by this afternoon. Tree pollen, a big issue for the rest of this week. The other allergens remain low, and here's the 88-degree record that will likely shatter as soon as 1 o'clock today from 1960. That's over in Newark. It's going to be warm today with that extra sunlight, longer daylight hours. Yeah, and temperatures already starting at 70 degrees. Now, the rain chances over the next few days pretty low until we get to Friday and especially Sunday. That's our best shot of seeing some widespread soaking rains, but it takes a few more days until we see any of that wet weather, because even though tonight has a little chance of a sprinkle or thunder shower up across Bergen County, western Passaic County, the rest of New Jersey stays dry. Friday has a cold front come through, relatively dry, so it likely only gets just a little bit cooler for the Saturday. And then by Sunday, you see some of these showers start to line up across New Jersey. That'll give us a wet second half of the weekend. The 7-day forecast has plenty of warm weather around going into Friday and Saturday, although cooler by the start of the weekend. And then look what happens by Monday and Tuesday. We drop down into the 50s early next week. Might even get cooler going into Wednesday. We'll tell you more about that coming up in our next weather update.
All right, Mike, thank you so much, sir. 63 degrees in northern New Jersey, 65 degrees in Trenton. Now, at Rider University, experiential learning is at the heart of the student experience, giving students the opportunity to apply what they learn in real-world settings. One standout example is the university's mock trial program, which has quickly made a name for itself on the national stage with an impressive Cinderella story debut. At the center of that success is student leader Amanda Steele, whose academic drive, hands-on legal experience, and leadership helped propel the team forward and earn her acceptance to Harvard Law School. Joining us now are Micah Rasmussen, faculty advisor for Rider Mock Trial, and Amanda Steele to share more about this incredible journey. Good morning, both of you.
Good morning, Ken.
Good morning.
Bet, always good to have you on. Nice, good to see you. Well, what makes Rider's approach, Micah, to experiential learning so unique, especially through programs like Mock Trial? Talk about that.
Because of our small size, years ago when I was in school, when you were in school, maybe we did one internship over the course of our 4 years. At this point, it is a much more competitive landscape everywhere, and that applies to students as well. I think Mandy would tell you that she didn't set out to apply to Harvard Law School, but to make the most of every minute of her 4 years. And that started early. And the thing about being a pre-law student is that you're very often competing with law school students. So an organization that can take a law school student has to ask themselves, what can you offer? What can Rider do for you to differentiate you? And in Mandy's case, that started with a shadowing day at the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court. The mock trial coach, the lawyer, the retired trial lawyer who coached the team, said, well, let's set you up with a Supreme Court justice, and let's give you a love of what's going on in that courtroom. And that really started her off on a 4-year process with the prosecutor's office, the public defender's office, the Mercer County Bar Association, so that by the time she was applying to these law schools, she was really a very experienced hand.
I mean, talk about baptism by fire. Let's just dump you into the state Supreme Court and let you deal with them. That is the real deal. And the mock trial team had that incredible first season. What would you say stood out most about the Cinderella story run? Would it be the Supreme Court experience?
I honestly wouldn't say that it was a Supreme Court experience. While I deeply appreciated it and it absolutely gave me an insider look as to how real courtrooms function at the highest levels of the New Jersey government, what I most deeply appreciated about that entire first year at mock trial was the ability to, in a simulated sense, participate in the legal process through mock trial competitions, competing against other schools, learning the rules of evidence myself, my own way, at my own pace, and building that camaraderie with my teammates. When I look back to that first year, even though there were so many great individual moments that brought me close to experts and standouts in the legal field, what I remember most are the experiences that I had with my fellow students.
And you have a guy like Micah Rasmussen as a mentor, which is no small bag right there. Micah, what qualities makes Mandy such a strong leader and captain of the team? Because a lot of people could be put into this circumstance and fail. And Amanda rose to the occasion. So talk about that, please.
Absolutely. Amanda is the glue that keeps a lot of very busy students together. The kinds of experience we're talking about that Amanda does, everybody on the team does that many things. And so really mock trial is competing for every student's time and energy and attention. And so many times Amanda was the person who was really pulling everybody together and saying, hey guys, let's get across the finish line here. Here's another example that's not from mock trial, but when it came time to do her senior thesis, her honors thesis, Amanda, who is a double major in political science and history, decided entirely on her own that she was going to do two theses, not one, but two, one in each major. She didn't have to do that. That was a decision on her part. And again, it's the above and beyond kind of spirit that really tells you what sets her apart.
Amazing. And even the idea of the Harvard Law application process. This is not just like a one-sheeter. Talk about how much effort needs to go into that and how Amanda, we'll ask Micah first, and then we'll talk to Amanda about that. Micah, how she approached the Harvard Law application process. That's a big deal unto itself.
It is. And I want to hear from her about this, but I will tell you that, and I said this before, she did not set out. I don't think we ever used the term Harvard or the word Harvard Law School until it became very clear in this application process that she had all the qualifications, that she could excel, that she was being well received, that she had their attention. And so it wasn't a process of let's figure out how to apply for Harvard Law School. It was let's be the best possible applicant she can be, period. Let's have the best well-rounded four-year experience that she could come up with, make the most of every moment. And then that turned out to just really be a very strong application that at some point we said to ourselves, oh my gosh, this could actually happen.
Amazing. And Amanda, what was that like? How big a process is applying for Harvard Law School?
Applying for law school in general is, I find, an almost 1 year to 2 year process because you have to start with studying for the LSAT. And once you study for the LSAT for several months, you have to take the LSAT, decide if you like your score. And from there, you begin narrowing down your list of schools based on both your LSAT and your undergraduate GPA and what you're personally interested in field of law, in regions that you're interested in. And once you narrow down a set of schools, then you have to start preparing your materials, start applying. Some people visit schools before they even apply to figure out if they are interested in the area. The entire process for law school applications often starts a year to a year and a half before you actually begin submitting your applications. And that was the same for Harvard. That was the same for all the other schools that I applied to. One difference that I noticed with Harvard Law is I found them to be extremely transparent regarding dates and times within their process, which I deeply appreciated. You always knew what you were getting into, and if you didn't hear back by a certain point, you knew to maybe lower your hopes a bit. And going into the process, I deeply appreciated that transparency because some schools do not exhibit that level of transparency. And when you're going into a stressful process like applying for grad school, any little bit of additional information that you can use to calm yourself, to narrow your focus, is extremely beneficial.
And you did it as a double major on top of it. I mean, gosh, do I feel lazy. You were captain of the mock trial team. What was it like helping lead such a successful and fast rising program, Amanda?
I see it. I am the captain of the mock trial team, but I always see it as something that I was carried along with. The team would never have been a success if every other member of the team didn't work as hard as I didn't love the program as much as I do. So I just feel lucky that I was able to be part of such a close team, close friends, hardworking people. And I am just grateful to have been a part of that for all 4 years of my undergraduate experience. And as a leader of the team, I have benefited from both learning from my team members, growing my leadership skills, but also just enjoying feeling that pride and happiness when a lower classman learn something that I've tried to teach them and I see them implemented during a round. That kind of pride of having helped someone else learn something is just irreplaceable.
Well, I think you're irreplaceable, and I think that you're going to make for an incredible attorney. Rider University's Amanda Steele, and soon to be at Harvard Law School. You make New Jersey proud, and Rider University's Micah Rasmussen, faculty advisor for Rider Mock Trial. What an incredible program. What an honor to talk to you both. It was great having you both on.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank
You
you.
bet. Wow. Doesn't it's humbling talking to somebody like that. So brilliant. It is 8:28 right now, 62 degrees. And do you use energy drinks? Do you use them every day? You're going to want to hear from our next guest about some possible dangers. You're watching Mornings, and we'll back in 2 minutes. Morning, Wednesday, April 15th, tax day 2026. Make sure those taxes are filed before midnight tonight. It is 63 degrees, northern New Jersey, 65 in Trenton. 8:30 is our time. I'm Ken Rosato. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. Hot today, mix of clouds and sun near record highs. Meteorologist Mike Favetta with the detailed Garden State forecast.
This weather is brought to you by Audio Nova, your hearing experts, serving all of New Jersey with 13 locations.
And Mike, I know you made it through college. I made it through college, and just hearing
Mm,
Amanda a moment ago, how humbling is this? Double major, going to Harvard Law School. She's at Rider University now, doing incredibly well. And she has someone like Michael Rasmussen coaching her. That's one of the best there is.
right.
I felt like I didn't even graduate kindergarten talking to her.
It's double majors. It's like 160 credits. So much work ahead. You could either stack it up and do the 21 credits a semester and barely sleep, or yeah, or extend it. So props to her. A very strong New
Absolutely.
Jersey proud. And we're gonna start
100%.
off today with a very strong summer-like forecast, Ken. Here we are in spring, and yet it feels like the upper 80s and low 90s by this afternoon. 89 over in Roosevelt and back by Freehold, 90 in New Brunswick. Very warm weather today. Weather that's not typical this time of year. That's why we're setting some temperature records across New Jersey. Even broke a temperature record yesterday down in Atlantic City Airport with that southwesterly wind. But a couple of storms headed our direction. Maybe missed the state, clip northern New Jersey later on tonight, but it's all about the persistent heat that lasts into tomorrow. And you can see it with the futurecast right through this evening, 90s, and then tomorrow, starting off in the 70s, climbing again to the 90s by the afternoon. I think we're dry until Friday afternoon. We get a few pop-up thunderstorms, might prevent us from getting to 90, but still, that little bit of a breeze coming off of the water by Friday starts to cool us down, and then we get some rounds of rain going into Sunday. So our best chance of seeing some wet weather is the second half of the weekend, whereas Saturday stays nice and dry. As we head into next week, the long-range futurecast puts lots of sunshine over New Jersey right throughout Tuesday and Wednesday, and then some cooler shots of air come in toward the end of next week that actually bring us back down closer to average. We'll only get into the 50s by this time next week, so some pretty chilly weather on the way after a decent weekend, starting off nice and dry on Saturday, but some rain expected throughout the day on Sunday, Ken.
All right, Mike. Thank you very much. I'm just looking. We just have two crashes that just popped up, so I'm looking at that right now. But we appreciate you, sir. 62 degrees right now, northern New Jersey, 65 degrees in Trenton. It's a little cooler in Cape May, 59 now, and I'm sure that'll change through the day. Although as Mike was saying, the water temperature is what's keeping things down at the shore in terms of temperatures, and it is 64 degrees inland in Vineland. We look at the traffic, and right now there's a crash with injuries reported. This is on Route 9 northbound, south of Northwoods Road, Stanley Boulevard, Howell Township. Two right lanes on the right shoulder closed, so that's going to be causing a mess through there on Route 9. We also have a crash now on Route 138 eastbound in the vicinity of Club Drive in Wall Township. Left shoulders closed there. Route 70, there's an overturned dump truck, both directions impacted at New Road in Southampton Township. All lanes are closed. Let's show 495 if we can, Pam. The 495 approach, this takes you into the Helix, and right now that's pretty heavy. There's a crash on 495 eastbound, east of the Turnpike in North Bergen to Boulevard East in Weehawken. All lanes are open, but you can see things are moving relatively slowly there. And as Pam takes us over to the 139 cam, let me just tell you about JFK and the other area airports. Wherever you have long-term parking, all the lots are 96 to 100% capacity. So make sure you reserve a parking space if you're driving yourself to the airport, or else you're going to get there, not be able to find a space, and then miss your flight. Don't want to do that. Let's look at the approach to the Holland Tunnel right now. Route 139 coming from the Turnpike to the Holland Tunnel is stopped, and that's going to cost you 40 minutes in. Lincoln Tunnel approach, as we just showed you a moment ago, is 35 minutes in, and the GWB upper and lower levels, 8095 approach, upper level on the right, lower on the left, is 45 to 50 minutes in right now. 8:35 is our time. Energy drinks are a go-to for millions of Americans looking for a quick boost. But new warnings from health experts suggest they may come with some serious risks. Studies have shown that even a single energy drink can impact heart rhythm and blood pressure, and heavy consumption has now been linked to an increased risk of stroke. With these drinks especially popular among teens and young adults, doctors are raising concerns about what too much caffeine and sugar can do to the body over time. Dr. Jeremy Liff is a board-certified neurologist specializing in stroke, and we say good morning to you, Dr. Liff.
Good morning.
Dr. Liff, I have AFib. I'm going to just put it out on the table now. I've mentioned it on the show before, and I have AFib because back in 2010, I remember having a sinus infection and taking pseudoephedrine, not reading the dosage, and taking about 3 times the dose over a period of 3 days, and ended up going into AFib. It threw off my rhythm. You just think that over the counter stuff, excuse me, as I press a button there, you think that over the counter stuff has got to be safe. It's got to be safe. If it's being sold over the counter, it's got to be safe. These energy drinks contain enormous amounts of caffeine and sugar. What can that do to the body? Not just the heart, but overall, if you, especially if used on a regular basis.
Yeah, so that's an over-the-counter medication. This isn't even a medication, or supposedly not. You can find it at a 7-Eleven or any grocery
Right.
store, and that's what's really scary about it, because it is an actual chemical that's affecting your body. When you think about energy drinks, I think it's helpful to think that there are two different effects. There's an immediate and there's a long term. There's so much caffeine in some of these drinks that if you drink a number of them, you could actually create an arrhythmia right then and there, which can unfortunately actually be fatal, or it can lead to a situation in which the heart creates a clot and then pumps a clot to your brain, and that could cause a stroke. And in addition to that, if you have enough caffeine in the short term setting, the blood vessels that are going to your brain can actually get very narrow and clamp down into spasm. And that can also lead to either a stroke or to a brain hemorrhage. And there have actually been case reports, some of them recently, in which that happens. In the long term, drinking that much caffeine day in and day out, along with the sugar that's in the drinks, can cause high blood pressure, especially in people who are way too young to be suffering from high blood pressure, as well as metabolic dysfunction and insulin resistance and diabetes. So it's short term and long term.
That's fascinating. So it's not just the short term. And I know that I mean I've read it and spoken to doctors about cases where you have you don't realize you may have some amyloid plaques in the brain. Suddenly you increase your blood pressure, you increase your heart rate, and boom, at the age of 40 you have a stroke, and that shouldn't be, obviously, because your body was not supposed to be getting these mega doses of caffeine and sugar like this.
No.
It's not what we're made for. And I know some people who do, especially in my industry. I worked for ABC for 20 years, and I know some people in our newsroom that used to do 3 of those shots a day. And I used to think to myself, "Good God, you're just setting yourself up for a heart attack." And it sounds like hyperbole, but it's not, is it?
No, no. Look at the caffeine content in some of these drinks, and they vary depending upon which energy drink. But when you factor in the amount of caffeine and then other supplements like guarana, which is this other supplement that has
Mhm.
caffeine properties, you'd be drinking up to 300 milligrams for each drink that you have. If you drink 4 or 5 of those, that's almost like drinking 15 espressos. That's not good. Like, you don't need a doctor to tell you that something could go very wrong. So you really just have to keep that in mind. I know that the fact that it's just sitting in a cooler at a grocery store or in your house, it almost seems like it's safe. But when you drink the amount of caffeine at that high dose, it is not, I assure you.
Doctor, what about the person who does the very occasional 5-hour energy shot because they have the long drive or something? And by occasional, I mean once a month, one shot, one time a month. Does that person still have something to worry about as well because they're mega dosing that caffeine even one time?
I if you have any predisposing condition, I would still be quite worried.
Mhm.
It's almost like saying, if you did one line of cocaine, would that be okay? If you have underlying heart disease, or you have an arrhythmia, or you have high blood pressure, in my medical view, I would recommend any patient who asked me that question, I would say, do not ever have any of it.
Mhm.
Certainly, the more you do it, the worse. But even one time with that amount of stimulant and caffeine could cause you a problem.
My cardiologist who watches the show has a fit when he sees me with my cup of coffee in the morning. He's like, "You're I can tolerate." I actually have one of those cardio devices, and I've sent him my six line EKG and shown him that I'm okay. I can tolerate the 1 cup, but that's because I'm under doctor's care and we're keeping an eye on it. But I don't do energy drinks. I remember years ago did one once, and I could feel my heart pounding out of my chest, which tells
Yeah.
me the propensity I have for it. So, but I like you, I'm concerned that so many younger people talk about like, and I'm sorry to mention a brand, but like Red Bull, they talk about it like it's just a Diet Coke. And even Diet Coke has a lot of caffeine. But a Red Bull, this is not something you take lightly. Just because it has a fancy bright can does not mean you should be consuming this. And is there any chance that we could get some legislation on these energy drinks, because they seem to be ubiquitous? Every store you go into, you see an energy drink stack somewhere. It's really frightening.
Yeah, and Red Bull, which isn't even the worst if you look at caffeine, there's like Celsius and Monster has even more, and they come in these enormous amounts of liquid, so it's the sugar too. It's an interesting question. I think like perhaps you'll start to see some legislation, especially when more and more case reports of young people having strokes are assuredly going to happen over time with 100% certainty. It may be enough to wake people up to legislate that this is not, you're not drinking iced tea. This is actually a chemical that you're putting into your body that could be quite harmful. And it shouldn't just be sitting there in a cooler as if it's nothing.
You're a neurologist, so you know more about what I'm about to say than anyone else, because this is what you do. But I have a friend who is a psychiatrist, and he tells his patients, if you are ever feeling that tired, he told me, because I told him that I was driving to Florida 2 years ago, and I said, I can't do energy shots. He said, then you know what you do? Stop and get cups of ice and chew on ice until your teeth hurt. And he said, the shock of the nerve, I mean, you would know more about this than me. He said, will stimulate your brain to give you an extra hour. I don't know. I tried it. It actually worked. I was wide awake and I didn't do an energy shot. So is there a specific nerve that would impact?
Yeah, so that's interesting. It's a complex answer, the way that the vagus nerve actually interacts with the brainstem, and the lower part of the brain is responsible for keeping us awake and alert. But something that like a shock cold like that, or it's kind of like taking a cold shower. Obviously, you can't do that while you're driving, but it's similar to that. Will activate your the parts of the brain that keep you awake. One other little tip is you could actually lick your finger and then put it over your eyelid sometimes. But these are really only in emergency situations. If you find yourself falling asleep behind the wheel, you should not be relying on these techniques. But certainly better than downing
Amen. Right.
300 milligrams of caffeine.
Right. Pull over and take a nap. Get a hotel room for the night. These are much safer,
Yeah.
and just stay away from the energy shots. We need to have you on more often, because this is something that I think needs to be addressed way more, because it's everywhere, and I'm so glad you're addressing it. He's a board certified neurologist specializing in stroke, Dr. Jeremy Liff. Do you have a website that we can give everybody?
I do, jeremyliffmd.com.
All right, Dr. Jeremy Liff, Liff. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It was great having you on, sir.
Thanks, Ken.
You bet. Hot today, mix of clouds and sun, near record highs, temps near 90. We're coming back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato at 846, taking calls at 888-658-0234. Meteorologist Mike Favetta has the Garden State forecast.
This weather is brought to you by Audio Nova, your hearing experts, serving all of New Jersey with 13 locations.
It's going to be a nice, comfy, cool, wonderful spring day in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not here. Little summertime feeling across New Jersey, although cooler at the beaches today, whereas yesterday at Atlantic City Airport made it up to 88 degrees. We'll get up to 89 today, breaking the old record up in Newark, and the dry weather persists. We're in a little bit of a rainfall deficit over the last 30 days, but the drought monitor goes further than that, up to about 90 days, even beyond. And while the winter had quite a bit of snow, that still prevented us from getting out of that drought, at least a moderate drought up in Sussex County. The rest of the state faring well, just slightly abnormally dry. And you've seen that, especially with the dry weather down toward the coast. Well, with highs today climbing into the upper 80s and low 90s, a sunny, warm, humid even afternoon. These are temperatures usually we'd see in July, but here we are, the middle of April, starting off our day nice and warm. And with the rainfall expected to be on the lower end, going in through the next 2 weeks through the end of April. Even the heat, the unusual heat, likely locked back down toward the south rather than creeping back up into New Jersey. And that's because we have some cooler weather on the way next week. So the 7-day forecast shows with that warmer weather coming in today and tomorrow, we cool off a little bit for the weekend, closer to average in the 60s. And then look what happens next week, starting off our mornings in the 30s by Tuesday, only staying in the 50s most of the day, maybe climbing back up to 62 by the afternoon. So it'll feel much more seasonable this time next week. Even the shore locations with that little bit of a breeze off of the water, yeah, back down in the 50s with that sunshine. That is typical of April. Another check of your forecast, Ken, coming up.
It's crazy. So the Thursday high and the Monday high is a 35-degree difference. That's
Yeah.
insanity. And my late grandma would say, no, she didn't use this accent, but I'm going to put it in there. That's how you get sick. Grandma did not talk like that, but nonetheless. All right, Mike, thank you, sir. We'll see you in the mañana.
See you
It is
later.
65 degrees in northern New Jersey and in Trenton. Now the AARP New Jersey Morning Minute, news, resources, and real-life help. Visit aarp.org. A recent piece of New Jersey legislation is meant to expand access to health care by empowering advanced practice nurses to play a larger role in patient care. Supporters say the bill could help address provider shortages and improve access, especially in underserved communities. To explain what this means is Winifred Quinn, advocacy volunteer with AARP. Good morning to you, Winifred.
Good morning, Ken. How are you today?
Wonderful, thank you. A little chilly, but that's okay. A few more days, Mike says, and we'll get some warmth.
Chilly.
So this was, I know nurse practitioners who were very concerned a few weeks ago because had Governor Sherrill not signed this bill, that would have meant that the whole idea of how a nurse practitioner can function as a primary care physician, if you will, would have changed. So talk about the advanced practice nurse bill and what would it change now, or what it is changing back, if you will.
Sure. So the state has about 19,000 nurse practitioners, and this law now will ensure that nurse practitioners who have 5,000 hours of clinical care within a contract with a physician would be able to have full practice authority after 5,000 hours in that contract. And that will immediately affect, I think, a couple of hundred of the state's nurse practitioners who provide both primary care, which is pretty widely defined in the legislation, and mental health services. So there will be primary care providers, not physicians, but providers, and mental health clinicians as well.
There you go.
Which will,
so these
right. And actually that will help improve access to care, primary care and mental health services for, I think the count was, the estimate was about 15,000 consumers. So patients would be able to continue to access the care that they've been accessing under the former executive order from Governor Murphy.
There is no way the healthcare system could sustain itself without nurse practitioners in the state of New Jersey and PAs helping doctors. There just aren't enough human beings as medical doctors to go around. And the idea here is when you have 5,000 clinical hours, you are very well trained on top of the years of education that these nurse practitioners receive. So when I hear people say they're just like doctors, yeah, they have the same training and the same experience. The laws are changing, and of course, the education is evolving. But thank God we have our nurse practitioners because we couldn't function. We just couldn't. As you said, at least
Absolutely.
15,000 people would be without that we know of, and it would be even worse. Right now, it takes months sometimes to get an appointment with a primary care somebody who could treat you, whether it be a nurse
That's right.
practitioner or medical doctor. So now this bill directly helps patients and improves access to care. Why
That's
is
right.
this issue so important in New Jersey, and why hasn't this legislation moved forward more quickly, you think?
So, well, the last time the law was updated was, I think, in 1995, and there was a compromise struck then. And over the last almost 20 years, a group of nursing organizations in the state have tried to improve it. And there's the political will, I guess, just wasn't there for either party to move it forward. And then when COVID struck 6 years ago, in this month, in April of 2020, Governor Murphy signed an executive order regarding the COVID emergency. And in that, he had the provision that all APNs in the state would have full practice authority. And so then the nursing organizations, and this time AARP New Jersey, in coalition together, were reaching out to both the new governor's office, Governor Sherrill, as well as all the legislative leaders to underscore, hey, tens of thousands of patients have had direct access to the state's APNs over the last 6 years. Imagine what's going to happen when the original emergency order ends, executive order ends. And so I think the legislative leaders realized that not only would people suffer, but healthcare costs would go up, including for Medicaid, and that would impact the state budget. So I just think that a lot of factors were coming in together at the same time that moved the legislation forward as quickly as it did in this new legislative session.
Yeah, and this you briefly touched on Medicaid there. The impact on the healthcare shortages, but specifically healthcare shortages in underserved areas, and how these nurse practitioners help there. Talk about that.
So I don't have the data at my hands to say how many advanced practice nurses and clinical nurse specialists, who this includes, are serving in the state's rural and urban areas. But what I can say is that on February 9th, I was giving testimony, and I was at the same table as me. There were two nurses who also gave testimony, one who runs a federally qualified health center down in Camden County, and another nurse practitioner who's a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And they were both, their testimony was so powerful. The woman that's based in Camden was talking about the most vulnerable patients that she cares for, who had really been neglected in many ways. And it was her team that was able to finally provide these kids, mostly kids, who had been so vulnerable and abused, the care that they needed. And then the psychiatric nurse practitioner was talking about, she had 300 patients who, if this law didn't pass, those patients, who mostly were low income, were going to most likely be relying on the emergency room and other desperate kinds of programs of care, or not get care at all. And that's just
That's
one
horrifying.
psychiatric nurse practitioner.
There's just so much need, and what a specialty that is, psychiatric nurse practitioner. So a psychiatric nurse practitioner, for those who don't understand, versus a therapist, psychiatric nurse practitioner, like a psychiatrist, can prescribe medications, correct, for somebody who needs psychiatric care,
That's correct.
which is so
And
needed. And yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Winifred.
just like now the nurses with full practice, the nurse practitioners and the clinical nurse specialists, those who have been certified in prescriptive authority with those 5,000 hours, now have full prescriptive authority to provide the full range of services to their clientele.
Amazing. How can people learn more or get involved if they support this effort?
Oh, well, they can reach out to AARP New Jersey. They can reach out to the New Jersey State Nurses Association, and the Society for Psychiatric Advanced Practice Nurses of New Jersey really did an excellent job leading the coalition in the last few months. They can also get in touch with that society.
Wonderful. Winifred Quinn, advocacy volunteer with AARP. So essential. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thanks for having us, Ken.
You bet. Thanks for joining us for your Wednesday. We'll see you again tomorrow.